In this class, I'm going to show you how to factorize quadratic equation without guessing or thinking. You understand? In our previous class, we deal with quadratic equation using the factorization method. In that approach, I asked you to think of two numbers, all those steps. But in this one, I'm going to show you another method of another method of factorizing quadratic equation without guessing. Okay, let's start with the first question. We are asked to factorize the quadratic equation x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay, x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay, how do we factorize this quadratic equation without guessing? Okay, because this quadratic equation has an a value of 1, you understand? Don't forget, we learned in our previous class that the coefficient of the highest power of the unknown is our a value, and the unknown in this equation is what? Is x, and the coefficient of x, the highest power of the unknown is x squared. The coefficient of x squared is 1, so a is 1 here, you understand? So because this quadratic equation has an a value of 1, we know that the quadratic equation is going to be factored to 2 factors, you understand? Because this is a trinomial quadratic equation. Okay, so we are going to have x. Please kindly pay attention. X plus 1 factor, a number among a factor, and x plus n. I just represent the two numbers by m and n. You understand? So because in every quadratic equation, trinomial quadratic equation is going to be factored into 2 factors. So I represent this as 2 factors, where x and each factor starts with x. You understand? Because the unknown that we are factorizing in this quadratic equation is x. Do you understand? Okay, so we have this. Please just pay attention. Okay. Now there is something called sum in quadratic equation. Sum simply means the sum of the roots. Okay. And we have another thing, another concept called the product. Product simply means the product of the roots. Okay, these two numbers that you have here, their sum must be equals to the second term in the quadratic equation that you have to factorize. You understand? Okay. See, these two numbers, we don't know it. We want to determine the two numbers. If we know the two numbers, we have already factorized this quadratic equation. So you see, these two numbers that you have, m and n, their sum must be equals to the second term in your quadratic equation. The second term in this quadratic equation is the coefficient of x, which is 9. Okay, so here I'm going to have sum m plus 9. Okay, let me just put it in bracket. M plus n is equals to 9, and then m multiplied by n is equals to 20. You understand? The product must be equals to 20. Now, please kindly pay attention. Having gotten to this point, the next step is that you have to take the half of the sum. You understand? You know that this is the sum. M plus n is the sum, and the product is what? This is the product, and this is the sum. You understand? Now, having gotten to this step, the next step is that you have to take the half of the sum. So here I'm going to have m plus n all over 2, which is equals to 9 all over 2. You understand? That is what? 4.5. But you can leave it in fractional form. You understand? So as not to affect our solution. Okay, so we are going to make use of 9 over 2. Do you understand? We are going to make use of 9 over 2. Now, having gotten to this step, you have to increase and decrease this half by a constant. Don't worry, you are going to understand. See, please pay attention. 4.5 minus 2 plus 4.5 plus 2. What's the answer? That will give us 3.5. This one will give us 2.5. This will give us 2.5. And then we are going to have, for the second one, we are going to have 6.5. You understand? Now 2.5 plus 6.5, that will give us what? 9. You understand? So now, if you increase the half by a constant and decrease it by a constant, if you sum all of them together, that constant must be the same. You understand? I'm going to explain. Just pay attention. Okay. See, having taken the half of the sum, the next step is that you are going to increase the half of this sum by a constant. you don't know the constant. I'm just giving you an analogy that if you increase the constant must be the same. For example, in this case, I decrease the half by 2, and then I increase it by 2. Their sum will be equals to 9. You understand? So if you increase the half by a constant and you decrease it by a constant, you are still going to have 9, provided that the constant is the same. Do you understand? We don't know the constant. I just gave you this example. Let's try another number. 4.5 minus 3 plus 4.5 plus 3. What's the answer? 4.5 minus 3, that is 1.5. Then 4.5 plus 3, that is 7.5. 7.5 plus 1.5, that is what? 9. Do you understand? So you can see that if we increase the sum, if we increase the half of the sum, if we increase and decrease it, if we sum it together, we're going to have the number. You understand? I just gave you this. Now the constant must be the same. We don't know the constant, so we just have to represent it as a letter. Are you paying attention? So here we're going to have, let me just use 9 over 2. 9 over 2 plus k, then plus 9 over 2 minus k. Are you paying attention? 9 over 2 plus, I just make use of k, you understand, because I don't know the constant. Okay, will be equals to m plus n, which is equals to 9. I just gave you, you just have to pay attention. Okay, you see, I choose a number in this example. Are you paying attention? I choose 2 as the constant. So you can see that by the time I increase it by 2, I decrease it by 2, and I increase the half by 2, you can see that I got 9. So if we don't know the value of k, even though we don't know it, by the time we determine the value of k and we substitute it into this equation, we're going to have 9. You understand? Okay, so now if the sum must be equals to 9, that means that 9 over 2 plus k, 9 over 2 plus k multiplied by 9 over 2 minus k must also be equals to what? Must be equals to the product. Product is 20, must be equals to 20. Please kindly pay attention. It is from this equation that we are going to determine the value of k. Are you paying attention? So let's go. Now we are going to take the product of this and this. You understand? The product is what? M and n. Okay? So m multiplied by n must be equals to 20. So the product of the roots must be equals to what? Must be equals to 20. So yeah, I'm going to have 9 over 2 multiplied by 9 over 2. You can see that this is even the difference of 2 squared. So there is no need for going too much at all. Just say 9 over 2 multiplied by 9 over 2. That is 81 all over 4. Then for this, you are going to have minus c squared. Minus k squared. Sorry. Minus k squared. Okay. This will be equals to 20. Now we can determine the value of k. We can determine the value of k here. Here I'm going to have minus k squared is equals to 20 minus 81 all over 4. Now take the LCM. Minus k squared is equals to that is 80 minus 81 then all over 4. Now minus k squared is equals to 80 minus 81, that is negative 1 all over 4. So here k squared is equals to, just divide both sides by negative 1, that is 1 over 4. Now take the square root. We're going to have k squared. K is equals to square root 1 over 4. So k is equals to plus or minus 1 over 2. But we are going to choose to, if you choose the negative value of k, you are still going to get the same answer. But we're going to choose the positive, okay? So k is equals to 1 over 2. Now, let's go back to the question. Now, having gotten the value of the constant that you increase and decrease the half of the sum, having gotten the constant, you can see we increase and decrease the half of the sum. We increase it by a constant. You can see by the time I sum this constant together, it's giving me 9, like the previous example that I gave here. Now, having gotten the value of k, all you have to do now is that you have to substitute the value of k into the sum. You understand? You have to substitute the value of k into the sum. Don't forget that the sum is what? 9 over 2 plus k plus 9 over 2 minus k. So here I'm going to have 9 over 2 plus 1 over 2. Then I'm going to have 9 over 2 minus 1 over 2. Okay. Now here I'm going to have 2 9 plus 1. Okay. Plus here 2 9 minus 1, that is 8. Okay, that is 10 over 2 plus 8 over 2. You understand? So here 5 plus 4. Okay, so here we have 5 and 4. Okay, here we have 5 and 4. Don't forget that the 5 and 4 simply means m and n. This stands for m and this stands for n. You understand? So all you have to do is that you have to replace the value of m as 5 here and the value of n as 4 here. So that is the factor. That is the factor of this quadratic equation. So here I'm going to have the factor now become x plus 5 and x plus n. You understand? Oh, x plus 4, sorry. X plus 4. Do you understand? If you didn't understand, listen to the explanation again. Let me show you the step. If you are asked to factorize a quadratic equation and you don't want to guess, the first step is that if the quadratic equation is trinomial and if the a value in the quadratic equation is 1, just write the quadratic equation in this form, x plus m and x plus n. Now the goal is to determine the value of m and n. And we know that there is a concept called sum and product. Sum in the quadratic equation simply means that the sum of the factor, the sum of this value, m plus n, that is, must be equals to the second term in our quadratic equation. The second term in this quadratic equation is what? Is 9, you understand? Which is the coefficient of x. Okay? So, and their product must be equals to the constant term in the quadratic equation. Because the quadratic equation has an a value of 1. So the product must be equals to the constant term, which is 20. Now, the next step is that you have to take the half of the sum. You understand? The sum is what? Is 9. Half of the sum is 9 over 2. You understand? So, having taken the half of the sum, the next step is that you have to increase and decrease this half by a constant. We don't know the constant, so I represent the constant by k. The half is 9 over 2. So I increase 9 over 2 by k, and then I decrease 9 over 2 by k. You understand? Increasing 9 over 2 by k simply means that 9 over 2 plus k. Now, if you decrease 9 over 2 by k, that means that you are subtracting k from 9 over 2. You understand? That is why I have 9 over 2 plus k plus 9 over 2 minus k, which simply means m plus n. Are you paying attention? M plus n, which must be equals to 9. So, since the constants are the same, you are still going to get the value of m plus n as 9. You understand? Like the example that like the previous example that I gave here. Okay. Now, since we know that this is the value of m and this is the value of n, now the product of the sum of your increase and decrease, the product of the product must be equals to 20. You understand? That is, the product of this and this must be equals to 20. So having done that, you just have to take, it's just like the difference of 2 squared. So I add 81 over 4 minus k squared. Then you determine the value of k. Now, having gotten the constant, then you go back to the sum. The sum is what? 9 over 2 plus k and 9 over 2 minus k. So the sum, you are going to substitute the value of k into that sum. Having gotten the value of, you are going to get a value. That value represents the value of m and n. Are you paying attention? So m, you are going to replace the value of m as what you got at the you are going to replace the value of m as the first answer and the value of n as the second answer. You can see that it's simple. Okay, let's solve one more question on how to factorize quadratic equation without guessing. Okay, we are asked to factorize the quadratic equation x squared plus 32x plus 192. X squared plus 32x plus 192. Okay, so how do we factorize this quadratic equation without guessing? We are still going to go the same way, okay? Because the quadratic equation has an a value of 1. That is, the value of a is what? The value of a is 1. A is the coefficient of x squared, you understand? And because this quadratic equation is trinomial, so we're going to have it is going to be factored into 2 factors. You understand? So each of these factors start with x. So I'm going to have x plus m and then x plus n. Okay? So now remember that there is a concept called the sum and the product in quadratic equation. The sum simply means the root of the quadratic equation. When summed together, it must be equals to 32, which is the second term in the quadratic equation, and their product must be equals to 192. Do you understand? Okay, so here I'm going to have the sum, which is what? M plus n, which is equals to 32. and their product, which is m multiplied by n, must be equals to 192. You understand? Which is the constant term in the quadratic equation. Okay, so let me write it here, the product. Okay, now the next step is that you have to take the half of the sum. You understand? The half of the sum is what? 32 divided by 2. So half of the sum, which is half of, let me just write it, m plus n all over 2 is equals to 32 all over 2, which is equals to 16. You understand? So having taken the half of the sum, you have to increase this half by a constant. You understand? You're going to increase this half by a constant, and you're going to decrease it by a constant. Then you are going to sum both of them together. Okay? So since the half is 16, so let us increase 16 by a constant. We don't know the constant, okay? So we are going to represent the constant as k. So I'm going to have 16 plus k plus 16 minus k. This will be equals to 192. You understand? Oh, it will be equals to 32. Must be equals to m plus n, which is equals to 32. You know, m plus n is what? 32. So their sum must be equal. The sum of our increase and decrease must be equals to m plus n, which is equals to what? 32. Let's say that the value of k is 8. Are you paying attention? Let's assume that the value of k is 8. Let us try. If this is true, we want to check if this is true. Okay. Let us say the value of k is 8. So we are going to have 16 minus 8 plus it's 16 plus 8 plus 16 minus 8. Let us check if it is equals to 32. 16 plus 8 is 24. So I'm going to have 24 plus, now 16 minus 8 is what? Is 8. So I'm going to have 24 plus 8. 24 plus 8 is 32. You can see. So this is correct. You understand? Though we don't know the value of k, I just gave you this example so as to know that what we did here is mathematically correct. Do you understand? Okay. So now, since we know that the sum must be equals to 32, that means that their product as well must be equals to 192. You understand? So let us represent it as m and this as n. I represent this bracket as m and this as n. You understand? Okay. So since we know that the sum is equals to the sum of our increase is equals to 32, their product as well must be equals to 192. So we are going to have 16 plus k multiplied by 16 minus k must be equals to m multiplied by n must be equals to 192. Do you understand? Okay. Now you can see that this is just a typical example of difference of 2 squared. You understand? Okay. So let us proceed. Here I'm going to have 16 squared minus k squared. You understand? Is equals to 192. Because you see what I did here is that I want to get the value of my k from this product. You understand? So having gotten the value of k, I'm going to substitute it into the sum. You understand? You just have to pay attention. Or it's very simple, okay? It's very simple. Okay, now let us proceed. How do we get the value of k from this? Now, 16 squared is 256. You understand? So I'm going to have negative k squared is equals to 192 minus 256. Okay? 192 minus 256. That will give us negative 64. Okay, so I'm going to have negative k squared is equals to negative 64. Divide both by negative, so I'm negative 1. So I'm going to have, let me erase this. Yeah, I'm going to have k squared is equals to 64. So we are going to take the square root of both sides. So k is equals to so k is equals to plus or minus 8. K is equals to 8. Okay. So having gotten the value of k, all you have to do is that just replace the value of k in this. Replace the value of k. Replace the value of k in this equation. So I'm going to have 16 plus 8, then 16 minus 8. Wow. You see, I just guessed. You understand? I guessed the value of k when I wrote this equation. You understand? I didn't know that the value of k is even 8. I guessed it. But there are some people that are not good in guessing. You understand? That's why I use this approach. Okay. So I just guessed it, and it occurs that the value of k is actually 8. So I think I'm really good at guessing, but there are some people that are not really good at guessing. So this method might be able to help you to factorize any quadratic equation that you cannot think or guess the factors. You understand? So here I have 16 plus 8, that is 32. Oh, it's 24. So we have 24 here. Then 16 minus 8, that is 8. You understand? So now the value of m, this is the value of m. This is m and this is n. This is the value of m and this is the value of n. So the quadratic equation is factored as x plus 24 and x plus 8. You understand? That is the correct factor. Okay, so you can see that it's simple. If you're asked to solve a quadratic equation and you are unable to guess the factor, you are unable to guess the factor, yes, the first step is that just write the quadratic equation in this form, and remember that the sum is equals to the second term and the product is equals to the constant term for any quadratic equation in which the a value is 1. So here, take the half of the sum, that is 16, increase the half of the sum by a constant and decrease the half of the sum by the constant, then sum them together. It must be equals to 32. You understand? So since you know that their sum is equals to 32, that means that their product as well must be equals to what? 192. You understand? So having done that, take the difference of 2 squared. You get the value of k as, you get the value of the constant that you increase the half with. You get the value of the constant, which is 8 here. Then you replace the constant into the sum. You understand? You replace the constants, so you get 2 values. Those 2 values are the value of m and n. It's very simple. Okay, but now, what of in a case where the quadratic equation doesn't have an a value of 1? That is, the value of a is not 1. Maybe the value of a is 2. We are going to look into that in our next class, okay? Because there is another technique to factorize such quadratic equation. For example, let's say you are asked to factorize the quadratic equation 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. How do you go about that quadratic equation? I'm going to teach you without guessing, okay? Without guessing. How do you solve the quadratic equation without guessing? How do you factorize it without guessing? I'm going to teach you in the next class, okay? So if you find this video helpful, let me know in the comment section. Click the like button. And now, this method is important. Anytime you realize that you cannot guess or you are unable to guess the factor of a quadratic equation, you can use this method to quickly solve it. You understand? But in the case, there are some work example that they are easy to guess. You understand? If you are good at guessing, kudos to you. But if you are not, this method can help you. Okay, so that will be all for this class. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section. See you in the next class.